Welcome, fight fans,
to the Fighters Boys Kick-Ass Podcast.
Your Fight Talk Authority.
Not to mention the most entertaining and talked about podcast with your kick-ass host, Richard ORTIZ.
You mad? Come at me, bro.
And his loyal kick-ass co-host, Senor Cole ESCOVEDO.
Streaming live and worldwide.
Coming to you all the way live from a little place somewhere in Cali. The Fighters Boys
Kick-Ass Podcast.
Fresno, California. We're live here in Mad Production Studios. I'm your host, Richard ORTIZ of the Fighter's Voice Kick-Ass Podcast. Alongside of me, I have the UFC veteran himself, Mr. Cole ESCOVEDO.
What up, amigo?
Do you like Cole ESCOVEDO or the Apache Kid, or both?
You know, the Apache Kid one kind of started as a joke, but it just kind of stuck because I was young. Cole ESCOVEDO's fine. But
you still got some Apache Kid left in you.
Well,
that knockout is still in you. That fight
the
is still
Apache
in
Kid's
you.
always going to be there.
Okay.
And he's always good. Just ask Poppy's. Apache Kid's always going to be there.
Oh, and Poppy's wants
Can't
a rematch.
question that stuff.
Poppy's wants a rematch, and he wants to make a comeback. And those are some of the topics we're going to be talking about today. But you know what? I'm very excited, man. I mean, our guest today, this guy is a workaholic. Well respected in the industry. I mean, everybody that I talked to today that was just shooting questions left and right, and everybody wanted to give me his resume. I mean, and so I'm reading through all the resume, and then I'll get some questions in there, but they had nothing but good things to say about this guy. And every time I see him, man, I mean, he's just like Dick Clark, man. I mean, he just doesn't age, man. I'm serious. He's like getting younger and younger every single time.
He's
man.
a Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, well, kind of like that. And what was that Button guy?
Yeah, Benjamin Button.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that, man. I mean, but we're going to jump right into this because we got a lot of questions coming his way. People want to express exactly what they feel of this man, the respect, and we're going to start by respecting the show and respecting our guests. I don't want to keep them on hold, man. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce, we have one of the most prominent, when I say prominent, bilingual commentators in the world, because he's global and he's worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, ESPN's Mr. Bernardo Osuna. Welcome to the show, Bernardo.
Hey, Richard Cole. It's a pleasure to join you today on the podcast. And, I really appreciate that. What you're saying, it just means my parents raised me right, and that's the greatest tribute you can give them, is the fact that you've heard good things about me and that I've treated you well. When we've met, and I do pride myself on that, on the over 25 years that I've been covering boxing, so I really appreciate that.
Hey, the pleasure's all ours. Actually, you started in 1993 as an intern with Telemundo, correct?
Yeah, I did. So I got really lucky when I was in between my junior and senior year at Loyola Marymount University, and I started to learn how to produce sports at Telemundo at the time, and I did that over the summer. And then when my internship was over, they brought me on, and when the anchor would go on vacation, the producer would anchor and I'd produce, and when the producer would go on his 2 weeks vacation, I was still a senior, but I was working, learning my trade while still in college, and I had really great professors who understood that, hey man, you're already in the business, keep doing your thing, and from there it just grew. Opportunities came my way, and I worked really hard. Once I graduated Loyola in May of '94. It's interesting because I got my first break in television thanks to a professor. It was Latin American history professor, Reverend Ernest Sweeney, a Jesuit, and he knew a producer who was working at Univision at the time, Pablo Urquiza, and right before I graduated, he said, hey, I'd love for you to meet this person. He's a producer. I know you're already working in the business, but I'd like for you to meet him. And I almost did it as a favor to the old man,
right.
the old Jesuit priest, and he got us together. And this.
How do you tell him no?
Yeah, I said, how do you say no to a free meal? That's like the first thing about being in the media, right? You never say no to a free meal. No. He hooked me up, and that conversation turned into an opportunity, and from there it was just work, like you said, and it hasn't stopped since. Thank God.
Well, talk to us about 2009 and 2010 and working with Brian Kenny.
You know what? Working with Brian Kenny, when I was a guest analyst, as it was a rotating panel. It was Bernard Hopkins, Dan Rayfield, BJ Flores, and myself would rotate in once a month. And Brian Kenny is the smoothest in the business.
Yes, he is.
I learned a lot from him. A great host, just knows how to set you up, make you look good. And I really, I was making the transition from, 18 years in Spanish television, working at Univision and Telefutura, and working with BK was a great introduction to Friday Night Fights, ESPN, and it eventually became a job for me.
Yeah, you know what? Let's talk about Friday Night Fights, because you were the host in the studio for Friday Night Fights, correct? ESPN host,
so
and
BK
it just took off.
Once BK left to go to Major League Baseball, I became the host for a year. That didn't work out so much, but then, it gave me the opportunity to become the reporter and do some play-by-play, which is what I'm doing now. And I think, the beauty of where we're at right now with ESPN is that we've got an amazing crew, and
yeah, you do.
I think I'm in the best place to succeed right now, where ESPN really maximizes my value, what I bring to the table, what my expertise is, and with Joe Tess doing blow by blow, and Andre Ward and Timothy Bradley doing the color analysis in their own different styles, and with Mark Kriegel, just an amazing essayist that brings a whole different dimension to the show. And then myself being a bilingual reporter, and using my relationships that I built over the years with these fighters, with their cornermen, to really be able to get in there and get that information, and then being able to translate on the fly. I think it's really opened up a great opportunity. But it all did start with Friday Night Fights, where I started to grind my teeth on the English language. I was doing soccer with Fox Sports Net, calling MLS games for Chivas USA as a color analyst, but that was my first foray into English language boxing, and it really, set the tone for where my career is today.
Well, actually, we talked about it, you briefly said that didn't go too well. I think it made you thirsty. I think it made you hungry for boxing, to accept the sweet science for what it is. You embraced it and you made it yours. And when you were talking about your team, I don't want to forget about the beautiful, the talented Miss Christina Potcher, who actually says hello today.
Hey, CP, she's amazing. She just celebrated her 10th year
Yes.
with Top Rank just a couple days ago. So, it's one of those things that when you get to be a trailblazer like she is, and like I've been able to do for young Latinos to be able to, follow in my footsteps, and you know how hard that is yourself.
Absolutely.
And so it's wonderful to have a woman who goes out there and really knows her trade, and we have great conversations, Christina and I, about, where we want to be, and just having the patience to understand that it's a long haul. I've been in this 25 years, and I just tell her, you're only in this 10 years. It seems like a lot to you, but, the road is long, and the opportunities will come. She's as talented as they come, and we will all get our chance, at the spotlight. And we just have to do well at what we do now, and when those opportunities come and they open up, we just got to hit it out of the park.
Exactly. And you know what? I like to say she's a regular on the show. She's been on here 3.5 times. I say half times because she's still a mom. She was on here live. Remember that, Cole? And she was being a mom as she was on. And she'll always call us the Fighter's Voice family. So I'm glad that she considers us family and more than friends. Cole, when we've worked with Christina, I mean, she was nothing but a professional, just as Bernardo explained to us.
Totally, 100% professional. Even when we try to pull the tricky questions, we try to get a question that leaves you no room but a personal opinion answer, and she's managed to skirt around those pretty well. She's like, well, in my experience, I pretty much just let them tell me which fight they're booking and which fight I need to promote and how they want to promote it, and then she just goes. She's like, then I just knock things out of the park and stuff. So it's like, you got around that one. You got off the hook on that one. Yeah. So you got to be tricky with her, but. With Bernardo, man, I'm going to be honest. I saw the pictures of Bernardo, the suit, the mic. Everything was presidential looking, he looking top suit, right? But then I saw a panned back picture. Yeah. And our boy Bernardo here was wearing jeans with that pinstripe jacket top, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, there's a casual Friday part to Bernardo's side. There's a side here that we didn't see yet, that it's all business suit and everything. So seeing the jeans lets me know that he is just as much one of the guys. When he's talking with the fighters, when he's interacting with the fighters, he's able to talk to them, listen, and have conversations with them versus just looking at a piece of paper and just going through the motions versus trying to actually have a conversation. So seeing the jeans definitely puts Bernardo.
He's one of us.
Yeah, he's one. He's definitely falls in the everyman category with that, because that's you can't be on ESPN and rock the jeans and not be super confident about it. It's like, I'm rocking jeans on ESPN. That's what I do.
Hey, you know what? He still has the microphone, and that's like Superman with his cape.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? The microphone is Bernardo's cape.
Mm-hmm.
Bernardo. Yeah, I mean, that's something that you always understand. Even when Tyson Fury takes it from you, people you never let go of the mic. But it happened the first time when he fought on our air, and he serenaded us, and then after the the Deontay Wilder fight, my producers in my ear are like, just give him the mic, man.
Yeah,
just
just
his moment. Just go
let him
ahead.
have
You know,
it.
and it's like the first rule of interviewing: never give up your mic. But when it's going to end up in a serenade and something beautiful like that, you just let it go.
Plus, a guy like Tyson Fury tugs on the mic. You don't really hold. You okay?
Especially after
he's
what
taking
he did
the
to
mic.
Deontay Wilder that night.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to lose that one.
He's taking the mic either way.
Yeah, he was flying. He was flying high that night, man.
But you look very surprised in that picture. Like there's a very look of like, oh man, he's taking the mic. It's a very real moment.
Yeah, and he gives you that because even for the first fight, I'm like, you got anything special planned? And he's like, you'll know. And I'm like, all right, dude, I'm just,
like that scene in a movie. When's the signal?
Yeah,
you'll know when it happens.
The first fight, I was just like, you know what? You said you came to America to entertain. What do you say you entertain? He grabbed the mic and he belted out American Pie. So it was pretty impressive. And it's just one of those guys that has that bigger than life personality. And I can't wait to see that trilogy against Deontay Wilder. Hopefully we get it by the end of the year. Depending on how this pandemic plays out, there's a lot more important things going on right now in the world. But it's good to be a part of that distraction that we were able to give the boxing fans weekly on ESPN.
I wouldn't call it so much of a distraction. I think
call it hope. You give us
hope, and it's proof that the world is going to continue to spin on, and that look, just as a species, we got to start figuring how to adapt, how we move on. Restaurants have done it just for survivability of businesses. So when you get that kind of stuff, it's good to offer them that. It's good to be part of being able to offer that.
Bernardo, Cole hit a word right now that was right on, and it's going to go right into my next question, adapt. You were the only commentator not just surviving, not just stepping in, but absolutely living in the bubble. Tell us about that experience. How have you transitioned, and what are the pluses and the speed bumps?
You know what? I think one of the interesting things is a lot of guys tell me like, oh man, I couldn't be in that bubble for 7 weeks. And when you really look at what the situation is and what we're tasked to do, my boss, Mike McQuaid, called me and said, look, Bernardo, I have one person that I could send to the bubble, and I want you to be that one person. You give me the most value in terms of coverage in the bubble with the fact that you interview guys. I need you there. How do you feel about it? I said, yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm the one guy that needs to be there. Tess could be in the studio. The guys could be doing their stuff from their home, doing the color analysis. But for what I need to do in terms of getting to the corners and interviewing the guys, I do need to be there. So I took it as a great responsibility and a great opportunity. And I think, I really thrived in that moment. And I think it really takes a whole, it takes a village. And it really has been that way. The first bubble crew, especially, we were all, 7 weeks in. And everybody committed. We had people who, because of the COVID-19 situation, we couldn't fly a lot of our normal crew in, so we had to get some local guys from Vegas, from LA, from Arizona to come in. Mm-hmm. And everybody bought into this commitment that it was going to take to be in the bubble and to be away from your family for that time. And so, we really created a little bubble family where everybody, really gave it their all. Some people weren't into boxing when they first started, and by the time 7 weeks go along, doing 2 fights a week, you're invested in some of these people who you hear their stories that we're able to tell on the air, and you kind of fall in love with who they are as fighters and what they bring to the table. And I think that was probably one of the coolest things, seeing the evolution of non-boxing fans working the show become boxing fans. And, the guys in the replay booth who at the beginning of the fights wouldn't know who one guy was or the other guy. By the time the second or third time, a Clay Collard fought, a Gabriel Murataya fight, they knew who he was and they knew what his story was. It was the preschool teacher whose parents didn't know, he was fighting, and all of a sudden he shows up with a black eye or whatever, and they still wouldn't know, but now he's on ESPN, so they will know. And so it's one of those things that, seeing the evolution of the crew was really fun to watch because they all bought into what we were doing, and I think that was probably the coolest part of the bubble. The original bubble crew.
And not only that, I mean, it creates opportunity for these young fighters to get that call and to be on national TV in order to show their skill set and compete. And let's give a shout out to Robert Garcia's Boxing Academy. There's where that teacher was training at. And I guess you guys brought him right back after his first victory and brought him right back. He became a fan favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know what it really was about this bubble? It was an opportunity for those guys who stayed ready to thrive. You know, and that was a distinction, you know, that was made between a lot of these guys. It's like, you know, if you're a fighter who lives a professional lifestyle, then you were going to be ready on a call. I mean, what the hell else were you doing? You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you were just like the rest of us, just, you know, quarantine getting fat, then that's on you. But if you
I'll blame my
found
knee.
a way, I mean, yeah, I gained a little bit of weight too, but you know, if you were a guy who found a way to train, whether it was in the park, like some of these guys were telling me, whether it was in the backyard, you hung up a bag on that big tree, you know, whether your parents or your cousins or somebody, a best friend helped you out and was hanging a heavy bag in the gym for you to stay in shape. Some people had keys to a gym where they would be alone and they'd be able to go, and really it gave you an opportunity to see the haves and the have-nots, and those who really had a gym available at their disposal, because a lot of times they were closed and they couldn't be open. But really it was who made the best of what they had, and that's the beauty of boxing. It's like you can, like Rocky used to do, you find a way to chop wood or do whatever keeps you in shape, and that's what a lot of these guys did, and that was the beauty of seeing these guys come in, and guys like Murtaya and other fighters who would never have been on TV at 2-0, 3-0, 5-0, whatever, and get a chance to be on TV and have their story told. I think that was probably one of the greatest benefits of the bubble early on.
This is going to be like the era of the prelims. Like guys that you would normally just see on prelim cards, it's going to be just the era. This is going to be looked on back in like 5 years when we see guys that were prelims that are now like title holders and stuff, or they're big names now. We're going to be able to pinpoint the time frame in which they became that household name. So like during the Corona, these key guys just banged them out.
And also call it the year of the Rocky story. I mean, these guys are getting opportunities. I mean, left and right. I mean, look at Joshua Franco getting a call.
Yeah.
And then leaving with that belt. I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah, and it came down to the same thing. I mean, you get great sparring at Robert Garcia's Boxing Academy, but it's these guys who maybe Franco wouldn't have got that opportunity had another fighter been available at the time, you know? And it also gave Top Rank an opportunity to work with Golden Boy fighters and work with different companies, and that's basically what boxing needs, you know.
Exactly.
It's like instead of keeping guys on the shelf, other promoters said, hey, you know what, let's get this guy, you know, a chance to stay relevant, to stay active, and I think that if we can continue to build on that, and we can continue to build on what Wilder Fury was able to do in terms of bringing, you know, companies together, and Ramirez against Hooker, and I think boxing ultimately needs to give fight fans these great fights, because if not, we're wasting our time.
Fans will walk.
Exactly, and it also gives, you know, these gyms to be well respected. I mean, let's talk about Alvis Rodriguez out of Wildcard Gym, Freddie Roach. I mean, I'm looking at Freddie, and when Freddie works with him, Bernardo, correct me if I'm wrong, he brought like the fountain of youth. Like I found the next Manny. Like I found the next Cotto. Like I just, he's alive again. He was never gone, but there's a little bit more pep in his step now working with Alvis Rodriguez.
You know what? When you catch lightning in a bottle, and then you know you're able to do what he did with Manny Pacquiao, and they kind of both grew up. He as an elite trainer, and Manny Pacquiao as one of the all-time greats. And then you have guys come through your gym that are good. Some are great, and then a kid like Elvis Rodriguez comes in, and you're right. I mean, Freddie Roach has a twinkle in his eye about this kid, and that's a beauty to see, because I mean, if you have been in that Wild Card Gym and you see how hard Freddie Roach works, and how what it takes for him to even get up those stairs to get into training and to put on that, you know, that bodysuit and just pound it on, and you see what Freddie puts into his fighters, and to see a guy like, you know, Elvis Rodriguez come along that could, you know, make it in this game, it's pretty fun to watch.
It really is. I mean, and these two guys, Cole, they're just working great together. And we're going to see Alvis Rodriguez, I believe, on the undercard of the Jose Ramirez card in this Saturday, MGM Grand. You know what?
We are, and we're going to see Murtaya, too. Both Murtaya brothers are going to be on the undercard.
Yes.
Your hero, Christina Poncher, called those fights.
Yes, and you know, she's doing a good job. I mean, she does awesome. I mean, just her... She loves what she's doing, and we spoke about that, because when I wanted to introduce her, I didn't want to say, okay, one of the strongest female commentators. I said no, one of the strongest commentators. Period.
Because it it wasn't an achieved goal based on her
Yes.
being a woman. It
Exactly.
actually made, in her eyes, it was like, no.
You know what, Richard? That's kind of the coolest part about where I am in my career today is that I'm no longer the ESPN Deportes guy who's doing boxing on ESPN or Friday Night Fight. Now I'm just like, I'm just Bernardo Osuna, you know? And I think that's the coolest part. And the fact that you're mentioning that about Christina is the way it should be. And that's awesome that you're giving her props for what she does and not who she is.
You know what I was going to describe? When we were off air right now, I was talking to my co-host, and he was looking at, and when I say this, I'm going to use it in a boxing term. He was looking at all your belts, all your titles, and I said, bro, just Bernardo the commentator. Because if not, we're going to be mentioning the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, the WBO. I mean, this guy is unified. I mean, come on, all these belts.
It was a steam.
If you were doing a ring
list.
walk with all your titles, Bernardo, you'd be walking in. You deserve to be walking in with all your belts,
Clanking like a wind chime.
all your music. Put your mouthpiece in and say, "Bring it on, man!" As long as that microphone's there, that's like Superman with his cape, man.
Yeah, that's
Appreciate
it. It's kind of almost. It's like you get to a certain point of your career where, like, the achievements themselves aren't what the goal was. The goal was to get where you are now, to where you're not ESPN Deportes commentator, Bernardo Osuna. It's
Bernardo the commentator.
ESPN commentator, Bernardo Osuna Jr.
Knows what he brings,
You know what I mean?
man.
Like, it's a very solid, direct. Your name is your title kind of thing, and that's a level that you just have to really commit to.
Well, I don't want to sound too corny, man, but there was an open door. Speaking of Superman, what's been your kryptonite, man? What was one of the toughest interviews? I want to jump right into that one because I got that like 5 different times from fans. They want to know, what was your toughest interview to this day, Bernardo?
I think people will look on YouTube and find that the one that's described with Mayweather owns Bernardo Osuna. But it's with Floyd. I always enjoy those interactions because, like, I mean, if you ever had interactions with Floyd, it's like he's a different guy when you're just talking, whatever, and then once that camera comes on and he's got to sell a fight and he's got to dispute that everything. It's like, his Uncle Roger, you don't know anything about boxing, it's kind of that whole thing, and he kind of has that chip on his shoulder when you're doing an interview with him. But it was just funny, like, one of the funniest things one time was like, oh, you're just mad at me because I beat all these Mexicans and I beat Marquez, and I was like, man, I don't even care about that. I'm talking to you about this, and that. And so it's just funny. I really enjoyed those verbal sparring sessions with Floyd Mayweather because you did have to be on your game, because any misstep, just like he was in the ring, any misstep, he's going to take advantage of. So yeah, I think those are the challenging interviews and the most fun interviews. The other ones that are challenging is when you get a guy who doesn't speak much and you got to kind of have to pull teeth.
You got to lead the conversation.
That's challenging, but it's also part of the job. It's good questions bring out good answers.
Exactly, and you got to be ready because these guys, they're witty, and that's part of their personality. You got your Conor McGregors, the Floyd Mayweathers, back in the day, the living legends of Hector Macho Camacho. I mean, these guys, Nassim Hamed, which I'm rocking his shirt, him and Barrera right now.
Prince.
But Bernardo, you never knew what they were going to say, and they kept you sharp. They kept you on your toes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I pride myself is on the prep work that I do, and it's really paid off for me. Now I'll tell you a story in a minute about that, but I think that's the beauty of it, right? If you know who this guy is, you're able to ask him questions that like I'll look at it and ESPN has really taught me this, and my current boss especially is like, your question is not to make yourself look smart. If you just lead with an open question and let the guy tell you the story, like I can say, oh yeah, I remember the time we were hanging out and you had had just done 12 rounds of sparring, and then you came over here and you did 12 more rounds but it was like, I would rather say, hey, if you just ask the guy, walk me through that workout that I was there for that one time, and then he tells you what it is. That's a better interview than you going through and giving all this information and leading in the question, as opposed to the guy telling you the story. Sometimes you live funny stories with fighters, and then you're like, hey, like one of the coolest stories was Jesus Soto Caraz. I just asked him, who's the guy who hit you the hardest? You've been in the ring with all these guys. Who hit you the hardest? And he said, Carson Jones. He said, he hit me so hard that the next day I went to the toilet, I sat down, and I couldn't get up. He's like, I dropped the deuce. I had to yell to my wife, like, Flaca, come help me. And she shows up, and he's like, hey, help me out. He's like, help me what? He's like, wife. And she's like, no, I didn't sign up for that. You're crazy. So he's like, all right, then just, push me over so that I can jump into the shower, And it's like, this guy's telling you this story, and there's no way that I could do it justice. It had to come from his voice, and it's like, that's the beauty of this job, is like all those stories, the confidence that you get with these guys for them to tell you all these stories. And that's the beauty of doing this over the years.
And you know what? That's that advantage that you have because knowing the fighters and getting along with them at a personal level. And they're able to tell you more because, Bernardo, they feel so comfortable. It doesn't matter if the lights are on them. It doesn't matter if it says ESPN or Top Rank. They're comfortable. They're in their comfort zone because they're talking to you. The only thing they see is you with a tie on, as opposed to when you're hanging out with these guys, the respect that you get talking to them with the pre-fight meetings, etc. What's one of the most strongest relationships, kind of personal, that you built through the years with the fighter to this day that you can actually call your friend?
You know what? I never want to call a fighter a friend. I'll tell you why. Because, I'll give you Oscar De La Hoya as an example, and he's probably the guy that I've been closest to because his career arc coincided with my career arc at Univision. In '94 when I started to work in television, and he'd give me it would be the point where him or his team would call me at Channel 34 to give me the scoop. Hey, he's fighting Chavez. He's fighting Trinidad. Nice. He's fighting, Chicanito Hernandez, and it's one of those things where, I told him from the time we were very young, then we'd go hang out and go to a club or whatever.
That's right.
And I always told him, look, man, whatever happens here, happens here. But if you go do something dumb, I gotta treat it as a story because that's my job. So it's not personal, and whatever I see here, I won't talk about. But whatever becomes a story, I got to report, and that happened with the whole Cabo situation and whatnot, and it didn't affect our relationship because he knew that was my job, and that was it. And I think the biggest thing was he would tell me, hey, I'm gonna fight this guy, but don't say anything until I tell you. And when you create that bond of
the rapport, that trust,
being a source and trusted, and not, I could have just wanted an exclusive and blown it out and see if you'll give me another one later on. But I think if you ask fighters about me, they know that if you tell me, hey, I'm gonna give you a story, but don't say anything until I say it's okay. I've never not once have I ever betrayed that trust with the fighter.
Violated that bridge.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
That's key.
It's a good bridge.
That's why
you don't
your
want to burn.
reputation speaks for itself,
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times I always think to myself, okay, he's letting me know, and he just wants to see if it's going to come out. And you know what I always tell him? For example, hey, Richard, I'm going to say something, but don't say nothing. And I'll tell him this, okay, if someone finds out, it's because you told someone else. And that's what I'll tell them.
They didn't hear it on our show.
No, exactly. And you mentioned friends on there. Mike Rodriguez wants to say hello, man. He considers you a friend, has respect for your work. He said, Richard, he's one of the most talented and trustworthy voices in boxing. He's a big part of ESPN's telecast, and even years back when I was working with him on the Boxino tournaments, he said you guys had a blast together.
Yeah, you know what? Mike's a hell of a guy, with the Ward Tape brand and just what he brings to the table. He's such a disciplined person, and he's such a trustworthy guy with all the fighters that he works with. And I think just when you share that bond in common, I think it shows, and you just click, and he's just, he's just a nice guy, and he really believes in what he's doing and what he's putting into what these fighters do. And I think that's what makes Mike special. He's an officer off the outside of the ring, but in the ring, I mean, he's as devoted to his fighters as anybody else. So big ups to Mike and Ortiz. And
actually, Mike has a question. What nuances have you learned about, I hope I didn't eat that up, about boxing and boxing corners and how they work in regards to trainers and cutmen? Well, some of the techniques that you picked up along the way from just watching them, and you're around them the most.
I think the coolest thing is when when fighters hear just one voice in the corner, it's a lot more effective.
Yes.
I think sometimes, you get, everybody wants to have something to say. And one of the things that I have seen that works, though, is when they allow, the main voice should be one trainer, and then sometimes they allow somebody to say something, just one thing, and get in and get out. Sometimes it's the cut man, for example, that comes in and calms the guy down with, hey, I got you, the cut's taken care of, it's no big deal, and I think the beauty of how corners can work together but keep just one main voice, I think, is the one thing that I've seen really works. Because sometimes you get corners where 2-3 guys are talking and everybody's like, you see the guy just like a deer in headlights. Who the hell do I listen to, and what am I supposed to do? And I think the bubble fights have really given us a look into how the corners work, and what's being said and all that stuff. So I think that's a lot of fun too. But I just think one voice in the corner is the one thing that I would say more fighters and more trainers need to adapt.
No, I agree with you. And you know what I just thought about right now? Hey, Mike's a big dude, man. He's probably the biggest cut man in boxing right now.
Yeah, you get usually smaller people just because they gotta fit. They gotta fit in there.
Mike Basil's pretty swole too, but but Mike's got the height on him too. So
those are the buddies. Those are the wedding crashers, man. I mean, those guys, that's what they look like. They look like those actors, man. And we've had this conversation before. Mike's a big part of the show. His input, his telecast, his connections, and the trust that he has in the fighter's voice, man. We need more people like Michael Rodriguez and actually in the corner of boxing. How does that sound, right?
That fits all in there anyway.
It does.
It's almost like a political slogan.
It is.
He's already there. We just need him there anyway and get him in the corner.
It is there.
But he's 100% right. Bernardo's like right on as far as the things he's picked up, and that is super key. Like the good teams, the good coaches, the seasoned coaches and the seasoned teams that have been with each other for a while. One guy talks. That's how we did it. Anytime I was in a fight, it was one guy talked. It was just Pop. Main trainer talks the whole time, unless it's been on the ground. And if it's been on the ground, then my jiu-jitsu guy, Ted, would talk. He would just tell me, okay, here's what's going wrong, or it's time to get him to the ground. You know what I mean? Pop would tell you one thing, the guy over the fence will give you the water, but there's always just one guy, because if they're talking over each other, you've got 60 seconds.
Yeah.
If they're talking over each other, you're not going to have time to process what's being told. It's one guy talks or one guy talks. And that's it.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to talk about transition with you. Okay, we've had boxers, right, Cole? They made the transition to MMA, and Conor McGregor from MMA into boxing. Now, what if there's a big MMA event, Bernardo, and they just hand you the microphone and say, shoot away?
You know what? It's all about prep work. It's like, I think the one thing that I've learned is when it's not your expertise, you keep it simple. I'll be like, yo, Cole, this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to set you up. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm not going to be talking about rear naked chokeholds and all that stuff. I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm going to set the tone. I'm going to try to story tell. And that's kind of how you work as a professional. That's the way I would do it. Is you keep it simple, you keep it basic, you call the action that you're seeing. You see a dude get kicked in the face, hey, that dude just got kicked in the face. That's pretty universal.
Keep it simple. But set up
I'm gonna leave to Cole.
Spikes.
We'll let the Apache kid take that. And why is the takedown efficient? How does he get out of this? I'm gonna set him up so he can take me and educate me while we're broadcasting.
We've been there. We've done a couple Hanford shows like that. So yeah, that's exactly when you go in on knowledge, like not because you didn't research. It's just sometimes you're just there, and if they say, dude, you just got to fly with it. With as much experience as he has, he's able to just go into that motion and be like, okay, I'm not the guy of knowledge here, so here's what I'm going to do. Like he just said, he's just gonna set it up and expect you to jump up and be able to spike it down.
You know what? I'm going to tell the story real quick, and it's going to be the second time I told it today. We're working a Combate Americas event, and as a team, we'll go on there and we'll knock some interviews out together, Bernardo. And I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, why leave all this expertise here next to me? Cole, you go get all the interviews tonight, because they're all MMA interviews. So he's interviewing the California kid, Uriah. And at the very end of the interview, He addresses the crowd and the camera says, hey, a lot of you don't know, when we fought, this man left me bloody. I mean, it was a great fight, and he just left me bloody. And then you see the two just joking around. Now, had I interviewed him, you wouldn't have got that conversation. You wouldn't have got that icing on the cake.
Glimpse.
And Cole's able to get that because out of the respect and the relationship they have. So I know exactly what you're talking about, Bernardo.
Yeah, one of the coolest things, like working with Tim Bradley and Andre Ward, is when, you know, these fighters sit down, you know, and some of them, I mean, we've had fighters from Lithuania, we've had fighters from everywhere that you know, Colombia, Mexico, sit down and
places
and they're
people have
in
never
awe,
heard
like,
of.
dude, this is Andre Ward in front of me, you know, and so, you know, and it really opens up a lot of conversations that, you know, otherwise maybe they'd be a little bit more guarded, but when it's a fellow boxer who's been in there, who's been, you know, fighters are like, yeah, I'm trying to be smart, but I'm a warrior like you, Tim, you know, and we all have a laugh about it, or, you know, oh man, I love, you know, Andre Ward and his style and what he does and how he does it, or how he analyzes boxing, and it's just, you know, it really just kind of breaks the ice for a lot of us to be able to then get, you know, key questions from those guys, because Andre and Tim are sharp in those fighter meetings, and they are, like, they, you know, as eloquent as Andre is, Tim Bradley is, you know, straight to the jugular, like, yo, why didn't you make weight? It's like, boom, and it's like, oh, well, this and that. Well, isn't that your job to make? And it's like, it's so great, because if I do it, it's like, oh, what a jerk. But if Tim does it,
he can get away with that. He earned that respect.
You can't tell this guy who's been cutting weight all his life that it's not possible. You know what I mean? It's like you have to take ownership of it. So it's actually pretty cool to have that opportunity. So yeah, maximize those opportunities when Cole's with you, because they will open doors that usually aren't open for us.
Oh man, we've been kicking those doors open. Like we 100%, man. You're right on the money. We've taken what we know. Like, for example, Rich brought me on as like just a guest one time, and then after that
he was my like, guest, hey, Bernardo, and I said, you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, he was like, hey, we'll just what if you just came on and just talk? Cause we'd done commentary we'd done one, and then we did some down the road later. It's like, why don't you just come on and just, I know you don't know anything about boxing, just come hang out, we'll just talk about it in general, like give us your thoughts as far as just that. And then he tricked me, Bernard. Like, he tricked me into it. Like, he tricked me, but it was an opportunity where he wanted to say, hey, I'm going to, basically, he's like, I'm going to trick you into doing something that I think you would enjoy, if that makes any sense. Yeah, and then here I am.
Bernardo, he said, only call me on when we're going to have a MMA fighter. I said, okay. And I said, I'll see you Wednesday. We had a boxer come on.
Yeah, you know what? But it gives you that opportunity to kind of amplify a little bit and broaden your horizons and understand, you know, I mean, maybe talking to boxers, it'll help you with picking out stuff that you see with striking and all that stuff.
Yeah, knowing boxing more. Yeah, knowing boxing more has definitely done that.
Early on, you know, I had an opportunity to do some work with UFC. It was really early on in Spanish, and I turned it down because I said, look, man, I've been working so hard to build my personality and my resume in boxing, that what if this thing kind of just falls to the wayside and it doesn't work out for me, and I kind of push my marbles in, and it worked out for me because things have turned out great here on this side, but it really gave me a lot of respect for what MMA fighters do, because then I started to cover like Cain Velasquez when he was on the road to the title, and I went up to San Jose to see him train and spend some time with his wife and his kid, and I was like, man, this MMA training stuff is no joke, man. It's like, you got to, not only do you have to be a good wrestler, you have to know jiu-jitsu, you have to have cardio, you have to know how to, you know, be a boxer at the same time. And then I got a chance to go see Anderson Silva, that fight that he won, where he kicked the dude with the heel of his toe, with the heel of his foot, and
Vitor Belfort knocked him out.
Yeah, and he was getting his butt kicked the whole time, and just with that one shot. And then I'm flying home, and like I get there first, I sit down. Next thing you know, the guy's sitting there already. I sit down, I'm like, dude, that's Anderson Silva. I was covering his fight. I actually interviewed him last night, but he doesn't know who the hell I am, because I'm a Spanish, you know, anchor. And so like he sits down, you know, I sit down. We get about halfway flight home to LA. And then he had to go to the restroom, and so he gets up, he says, excuse me, and I was like, okay. So when he comes back, I'm like, yo, I was like, that was sick last night. And he like gets a big smile on his face, right? And he's like, you were there? And I was like, yeah, you know, I work for Univision and blah, blah, blah. So we had a conversation. I'm like, I can't believe it. And then he goes, you want to see something? And I was like, yeah. So he takes off his sock, and he showed me the bottom of his foot, and it was purple. And he goes, thank God he didn't get up, because if he had, I wouldn't have been able to continue, right? And so like we had a great laugh, and then I'm like, yo, can you sign my credential or my
Something,
program,
yeah.
whatever? And he was so gracious, and it's like just one of the all-time greats sitting next to you, and that experience of like, him taking off his sock and showing me his foot was like surreal. But really, it was one of those things where I'm like, dude, you have to be ready for anything in the octagon. You can go in so many ways. And that really showed me that, and I've had so much respect for UFC and MMA fighters ever since.
And Anderson Silva is such a people's person too. I mean, he made a phone call to Big Al Gonzalez. I'll share a quick story with you. When the way he broke his leg, right, Anderson Silva, we had a similar incident by one of our fighters who's signed with Bellator, Big Al Gonzalez. He broke his leg also. Cole made a phone call, and Anderson Silva's giving him a call and telling him, hey, keep your head up, send him a video and said, hey, there's anything you need, I'm here for you. And
it was super cool of him. Yeah, because it was just the fact that he was cool enough to just take the opportunity. Yeah, and he can relate. It's one thing to just have like a UFC guy call him, but to have one that can actually relate to something that you had just gone through I thought it was really cool that he took the time to do that. And he just didn't make a big deal out of it, just said, hey, could you make the video, send it to me, send it to him, here's his name. The guy would love it. It would give him such confidence and motivation, and it has. He was a super motivated guy as it was, and now he's even more motivated because now he's just dying to get back in there, like dying.
Awesome.
You know what? Sometimes I'm looking at some of my topics. I just really want to just throw them away because I mean, we just dove in, man. We're 3 guys talking in the garage, sipping on a cold one, and that's what the fighter's voice is all about. Every fighter has a voice, and when I explain to people, you don't need to put a mouthpiece in your mouth or put some gloves on to be on the fighter's voice because we're all fighting for something. And sometimes we're just fighting just to get our story out in our platform. And Bernardo, we have the utmost respect for you and just taking time out. And I like the way, because we've had some other guests on the show, and I had some that were all I did was send them a text as a form where, hey, send me an email. But I liked what you said, and he said, Richard, send me an email so I can send it to my boss in ESPN, and we'll wait to get it cleared. And just knowing that, I mean, to me, I was getting goosebumps when I was writing it together, man. I was just putting it together, so it felt kind of cool. Thought I'd share that with you.
No, you know what? I think you got to do things the right way, and it's a pleasure to join you, but to have that company behind me and to just help me grow. I think that's been the coolest part about being with ESPN, and any kid would love to work for this company, and I'm here doing it, and I'm trying to get better every day. Even though I've been doing this forever, but that's the beauty of it. I'm so motivated. I know that there's so much more that I can bring to the table, and I'm just in such a great spot right now.
I love that picture.
No, and personally, man, I'm happy to see one of us doing what they love to do at the highest level in the world. And first and foremost, the human being in you, but Mexican American, and just representing us professionally with class. And sky's the limit, man. I mean, there's going to be some kids looking back and be motivated by you. And I know we talked about her earlier, but Christina Potter, I mean, my daughter watches her, and so I mean, she's already opening doors. But
I mean, I think that's one of the beauties of it. For me is there wasn't a lot of guys that looked like you, me, or Cole on TV back in the day, and it's like it's changing that image. I just did something really cool with the Paley Institute for Hispanic Heritage Month, and it was answering questions about who those influences were, what were the images that you grew up watching of people that looked like you, and they weren't really great. You know what I mean? And so to now be able to be part of that generation that, I was saying, like, what do we need to do? And I was like, look, man, our programming is our voice, and we need to show people that not only are we people who bring great value to this country, as dishwashers and as waiters and as cleaning ladies, but we're also doctors and lawyers and journalists, and we're everything that you are, and that's the beauty of who we are and who we've become, and it's up to people like us to elevate the level of the game and to show people that we can make it, we can be those entrepreneurs, we can be those professionals in the world that make a difference. Because if people look at us and see us do it, I just tell I love going to schools and talking to kids, and And the most frustrating thing is when you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And some of them don't have a dream. And I'm like, no, you have to dream and you have to achieve. And I always tell them, look, the only thing that separates me from you or other people is I have 2 hands, I have 2 feet, and I just work hard. I wanted it and I keep working for it. And I think that's the difference, the desire and the ability to dream. So when they see a Bernardo Osuna on TV, they can look and say, well, I could be him or I could be better than him. And that's what I want them to dream about.
Yeah. And, you got a lot of awards coming up too, and the next one's coming your way is going to be Hall of Fame. So speaking of Hall of Fame, I spoke to Lee Samuels today, and he said, Rich, this is Lee. Hey, we got to make it brief. We're in fighter meetings. But he went on and on for about 45 minutes about you. But he said this. He was asking him this. Where did you learn your technique from? Was it another broadcaster? Who did you look up to? Who did you admire? Who did you follow? And what were the strong points that you grabbed from whoever influenced you?
It's funny because I don't, like, a lot of people say, like, oh, I used to look up to this guy. I mean, I grew up watching Chick Hearn, but my style's not like his. I love Vince Scully, but I'm not Vince Scully. I grew up watching Jaime Jarrin during the Fernando Mania days here in LA, but that's not who I am. And I think I just learned to be myself. Just, I try to respect both languages. I try to be as eloquent as I can be. And I never subscribed to having a shtick. Maybe my career would have been different, but it wouldn't be who I am today, And one time Univision wanted me to do República Deportiva. And when it first started off with Fernando Fiore, and I told my bosses, I was like, look, I was at the network level. It was a great opportunity. I said, look, I'm not a clown, and if I go do it, I'm either going to have to be a clown, which I'm not going to do, or I'm going to look like a tightwad, and that's not conducive to what I want to be in my career. So I think just staying genuine, man, just being myself and finding my own way. In terms of people who've taught me a lot, Mike McQuaid, my current boss, is amazing. Fernando Gonzalez is the guy who gave me my first opportunity at Channel 34, and he went on to become the Spanish voice of the LA Kings in hockey and then the LA Lakers as well. But just, he taught me the work ethic. He taught me accountability. I think that's one thing that's missing in the youth today is accountability, and he taught me that. He made me hungry because basically I was a freelancer, and he says, look, man, you pitch me a story. If it's good, I'm going to give you a job. And it went from doing 1 a week to 2 a week to 5 a week to 7 days a week because I was just giving them great ideas of what needed to be done. And I think for me, I was a young kid in the game, and I've always been very precocious in terms of leadership, and getting supervisory positions over people who've been doing stuff for years, even when I was in college and stuff. And I think it was just that opportunity that was given to me just because I've always kind of been wiser beyond my years, if that makes sense, and just always, it's really cool that Cole's like, oh, I saw the suit, this and that, and I always felt like you dress, I tell everybody, I'm like, you dress for the part you want. Yes. You want to be treated a certain way, you dress a certain way. You walk in with a suit, you're gonna get a certain treatment. You walk in, wearing a Pendleton and flip flops, you're gonna be treated differently. And I think you have to own who you are, and I think that's probably been my biggest asset is just owning who I am.
See, and that's what Bernardo here has done is he said, I liked so-and-so, but I'm not them. I like so-so. Yeah. I think what happened with Bernardo, and I don't even think he realizes what happened. It's almost like a child raised by different fathers all through his upbringing. He didn't want to grow up to be like any of them, but he learned characteristics. He learned value. He learned some character. He learned something different about what they each way they approached the sport and the job. And he said, I'm not going to be like you, but I like how you're doing things like this. And then he just took those things, kind of like Bruce Lee with Jeet Kune Do. Yeah. He just kind of took the things he liked from each of the arts that worked, that made sense, that he knew were functional and could be proven on the street and in self-defense, but in the industry. And he just took those and said, I'm going to make those mine. He grew up in the industry, but along the way he picked up characteristics that his own thought process, his own mentality grew out, and it came out as what we see today. We see Bernardo.
The mold that he's in is his own.
Exactly. It's not molded after anyone. It's his own, based on an upbringing and an understanding of the different values of the industry.
But one of the things I gotta come after you on is your expertise, man. Let's talk about this Saturday. Let's talk about Jose Ramirez taking on Victor Postol. And how do you see that fight materializing? And I know Freddie Roach would want nothing more than to bring those bouts back to Wildcard Gym. I mean, you know the whole story, but you also know the respect that they have each other. But whenever there's a matchup and you got Robert Garcia on one corner and then you got Freddie Roach on the other corner, I mean, are we looking at the fighters or are we looking at the breaks in the corner? Because they bring it and they leave everything in the ring.
Both. I mean, I think that's what makes this fight so intriguing. I mean, plus the fact that this fight has, when you talk about COVID affecting fighters, I mean, I was literally receiving my visa to travel to China to call the fight when it was called off, and Victor Postol was already there, and Jose Ramirez was on his way to the airport when they said, turn around, we'll let you know what's going to happen. So they had it canceled then. It was set for Fresno in May by Rick Meridian. It got canceled again. And so when you look at it, it's like these guys have been in 3 different training camps for this fight. They're so hungry. And I think that's kind of the biggest question is, Jose Ramirez goes into that RGBA Academy and they throw down, whether it's Virgil Ortiz or a lot of the guys that he's sparring. It's high-level sparring.
Sometimes it's Mikey.
For Victor Postol,
Sometimes it's Mikey.
Garcia,
yeah.
So you learn or you learn, so that's pretty interesting. But I think the fact that Jose Ramirez is so hungry, I mean, this guy has a plan in mind to be the undisputed champion at 140 pounds, and then when he does that against Josh Taylor, to move on and take on the less undisputed at 140, which is now a champion at 147, and Terrence Crawford. So, I think he's so intent, and you know better than anybody after interviewing him since he was a young kid, just what he's been through in his makeup. I think he's been counted out his whole life. He's been told he's slower than the guy across the ring from him, that he's not as technically gifted as a guy in front of him, but he just finds a way to win. He digs so deep. He's got these roots inside of him, these Latino roots, his hard-working parents and what they've been through and what he's gone through as a kid and what the people in the Valle go through. And he carries all that in the ring. And for some, it's heavy to carry. And for him, it's not. It's what uplifts him and what makes him who he is and what makes him
embraces it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's, Postol's going to give him a heck of a fight because he's hoping to get that one that knocked out Lucas Matisse in 2015. He's never captured lightning in a bottle again like that. But if he's looking at what Chon Cepeda did and making it a tough fight, boxing from the outside, moving, and he's got those long arms that, he could make it a tough fight for Ramirez, but I think he's just going to end up breaking him down, getting on the inside and just doing what he does.
No, I agree with you. I mean, if he tends to slug it out with Ramirez, I think it's going to be an early night. But Postol, I mean, he is hungry, and this could be his last opportunity at a belt. So he's going to bring everything. This is no pushover, no slouch. But something happens when Ramirez is fighting for those straps. He just becomes your worst nightmare. Looking across, you're absolutely right. He finds a way. He wins those championship rounds, and he puts himself in risk in order to land his own bombs.
Yeah, and when you look at Postol, I mean, look, this guy's only defeats have been against an eventual undisputed champion in a unification fight in Terrence Crawford, took him the distance, and then unbeaten Josh Taylor, who's now the other unified champion at 140 pounds. So when you look at it, we always talk about A-level guys. This guy's A-minus. I mean, he's right there. It's just, there's guys who grow up in an era and never get a championship, and we've seen that historically. Yeah. That could be the case. Well, he got a championship, but that could be the case for this guy who, in any other era at 140 pounds, maybe he has a chance to do something different, but he just came in at a tough time with Terrence Crawford, Josh Taylor, and Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, there's a lot of fighters that never really got. I mean, like Kenny Norton, he inherited the belt. He really never got that decision, even those close fights with Muhammad Ali, and they're just coming at a tough era, man. I mean, these guys, they're good, but they're just not good enough to get that strap. And I hate to put that on there, but it's just you just have other guys. They just got that tenacity, that pedigree, and they were born with it since day one to be a champion, to put themselves at risk and to bite down. And it's either you or me, and they find a way to be victorious, man.
Yeah, I mean, he did have a title, but it's just that stardom that he never was able to get, because he faced the guys who would become the stars, the Terrence Crawford, the Josh Taylors, and it's just a very interesting dynamic in this sport where, on one night he was great against Lucas Matisse.
Yeah.
And then he just never was able to capture that again at the top level.
Gatekeeper status, kind of, is role that it sounds like he fell into. He's not quite able to get that belt, but like Frank Yeager was that way for a while. Wasn't quite able to snag that gold, but
and then
you had to go through him to get to the title. So he was always like, if you couldn't beat him, you ain't getting a title shot, kind of thing.
Tough as nails was going to make you fight the entire fight.
This is an earn it fight kind of guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bernardo, let's talk about two guys who have earned their titles, and they got their titles, and they're going to be putting their titles on the line, and it can go different ways. And we're talking about, the man, the myth, the legend, Lomachenko. Taking on Teofimo Lopez. This kid is hungry. He's big. He's strong, and the bad blood is real.
Yeah, and I commend these guys for making the fight when it's supposed to happen. Whether they, someone took a pay cut or the negotiation leverage they had to use, because you can't fault the guy for looking for the biggest purse.
No.
But rarely do we see fighters nowadays seek to establish that legacy. Now we have many fights that go past their expiration date, but this one's happening on time. And,
yes.
Teofimo blew out Richard Comey in spectacular fashion in winning the title. And, Loma, he's looked vulnerable at 135, and he understands that he's really a featherweight, 130-pound max. But, Linares dropped him. Luke Campbell had a few good rounds against him, but then again, he finds a way to win. He's got the skill set. He's also got that deep power, which we haven't seen in Teofimo yet because he hasn't had to show it as a pro. The Nakatani fight is when he went to distance and just did not have a good performance that night. So you also see the weak spots in Teo, and you could see it going either way, but you could also see Teofimo landing that right hand and just doing something that establishes him as a superstar right off the bat.
And his dad has called it since day one.
Yeah. His dad is his biggest proponent, and it's just one of those things, like you talk about blind faith. He believes that his kid is the greatest to ever lace up the gloves, and for moments of time, he looks that way, in the ring. And other times, guys ask questions of him. So that's the whole thing. I think the fact that he's selling the fight on social media is great.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, man, we get that all the time. Guys yapping on social media, and then, oh, man, when the contract comes, I'm good. I'm not going to sign that. These guys did. They put their names on the dotted line. And I still believe it's for the undisputed title. I don't believe in this franchise tag. But, it ultimately, like you said, these guys earned the belts in the ring. Yes, Devin Haney may have one. Yes, Gervonta Davis may have one. But the lightweight champion is both Vasily Lomachenko, who has all 4 belts, and you've got 3 belts, and Teofimo, who's got the IBF belt because he won it in the ring. So people can have belts nowadays, but the champions, that's going to be determined who the best 135-pounder is when they meet on October 17th.
You know what? That's a whole show in itself, and I can't wait to have you back. I'm not kicking you off yet, but I can't wait to have you back and just talk about all these belts and the true meaning. What do they mean now? You got these intern belts, you inherit a belt, but I'm not going to waste no more time on that. You hit it right on the nose. But what I do want to talk about, first of all, how real is this comeback, and who will be under the radar for Oscar De La Hoya, and who do you think will be in his corner for Oscar De La Hoya? What's your take on that?
Okay,
the big question for me is he really coming back? It's one thing to shadow box, run a few miles, get on a bicycle. It's another thing to spar and then to put in a full camp, Yeah. And everyone remembers the glory days, right? But Oscar De La Hoya got blown out by Pacquiao. 4 of his 6 losses happened in his last 7 fights. People look at Mike Tyson and romanticize. Mike Tyson lost 3 of his last 4 to guys like Kevin McBride and Danny Williams, who in his prime had no business with him. The Lennox Lewis fight, I get it. But, people romanticize, and boxing is not a game, man. It's not like you could just go to the batting cage.
I'm going to borrow that word.
It's like, bro, boxing is real, man. You're risking your life, and we don't know what his brain looks like. I don't really think, Nevada definitely won't sanction a fight. California, maybe not. You may have to go to Texas because they'll license anybody. But, I just don't see a real fight for Oscar De La Hoya that is worthwhile. Now, if he wants to go on the senior tour like Julio Cesar Chavez and Travieso Arce, who are fighting for the 3rd time in an exhibition to make money for charity. I was there on Los Golpes when Julio Cesar Chavez told Oscar, hey, man, come back, let's do a fight, raise a lot of money, and we could use it for a good cause. That I would love to see. But to really take this seriously and to believe that at this age he can really take on the young lions out there, I mean, it's delusional if you ask me.
Well, I'm assuming, Cole, that he's on the senior tour, because if he gets in there with these young lions, I can't really support that, man. I mean, I'm a boxing fan, but I don't want to see anybody get wrecked.
I think Oscar is a man of opportunity here right now. What he's doing is it's a perfect opportunity to take a semi less than risky fight and get on TV, because there's a lack of, almost a lack of content right now. Everyone's trying to scramble, in a sense, to make sure they can start functionally putting out content.
It's the year of the comeback.
Exactly. So to see him do that, I think it's just he saw an opportunity to not get an easy paycheck, because he obviously doesn't need the money, but it's an opportunity to kind of get out there and get his name out there. I mean, the Golden Boy MMA thing, that went nowhere. Let's be honest with that. That went nowhere. That was a poor investment. That was a mistake, and I don't think he's up for it. Yeah. Well, even just dipping your toes hardcore into the MMA scene as a promoter, you don't just come out the gate. Look at what happened to Affliction. You don't just come out the gate.
What did Bernardo say? Show prep.
Yeah, you gotta do your research, do your time. Like he just because they were Golden Boy and they'd been running boxing, they're like, it ain't no different. Sorry, but
I mean, look at the end of the day, you look at Canelo missing, Cinco de Mayo date in 2020 and 2018, and then missing out on September 2019, but fighting in November against Kovalev. I mean, those are the money makers for Golden Boy Promotions too. And when you're putting your own money in there, it's different. But honestly, like, you look at it, who's going to pay Oscar what he believes he's worth? That's the big question here. And if you're not going to make a ton of money to fight, then why the hell even do it? That's the reality.
Who else do you see him fighting for, though? Like, when you ask who stands to make the money, like, he's not going to fight for anyone else. It'll be a Golden Boy promotion fight.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way he would give up the vendor rights, the promotion rights.
Where's he going to get the investment? Somebody's going to pay him 10, 15, 20 million to get back in the ring. It's like, that's... If you think Oscar's going to be fighting for 3-5 million in the times of a pandemic, I think it's a pipe dream. So
what'd they pay Joshua and Anthony to go fight in Abu Dhabi?
Oh, well, that was before the pandemic.
But what'd they pay those cats? So it's probably not going to be at that level of money. But I bet if he started hunting stuff, Dana White might be like, hey, you can come rent our island. You know?
I mean, Dana White made a statement that, I got my own opinion about that. But,
dude, he took a nice shot at Oscar with they're like, what do you think about Oscar De La Hoya fighting? He's like, cocaine ain't cheap. They don't like each other. It's very clear they don't like each other, because Dana's got a boxing background. Oscar doesn't even respect that. And then Oscar tried to get into the MMA scene as a promoter, and that's when Dana was like, dude, stay in your lane. Stop. I don't try to do boxing shows. But he has been seen talking to Mayweather about some type of an event.
Well, not just him. I mean, I know he visited Robert Garcia Boxing Academy.
So Dana's one. Well, they're building a hotel. Yeah. UFC's going to build a hotel, and they're going to cut out like the middleman, so to speak, and really have control over that bubble.
Building their own bubble. Mm-hmm. Bernardo, if you could name an opponent, who would it? We'll say the senior tour. I mean, and who do you put in front of Oscar?
I mean, the only guy that really makes sense is Julio Cesar Chavez. I mean, if you want to do Maravilla Martinez, who just came back this week, that would be an intriguing fight. But at the end of the day, like, what's the weight? Like, where is Oscar? It's like there's so many questions to really, dig deep into a real legitimate opponent. But I'd be all for that fight, because that one could raise money. I mean, you do it in Mexico, you do it in Southern California, whatever. You really do it for a good cause. That would be awesome. But it's really up to Oscar what he wants to do and why he wants to do it, because I just don't see it.
Well, I mean, I'd like to see him and maybe Chavez Jr., but Chavez Jr. is just too big, too much mass. I will tell you this. I got off the phone today, and he showed his interest. I mean, like I had that pull, and he said, Richard, is there any way you can get this message to Oscar De La Hoya? And I said, I know his people, bro. I said, why don't you just, reach out yourself? And that's Hector Macho Camacho Jr. I guess Oscar posted a video of when he fought his dad, and he posted the highlights of when he knocked him down. So he didn't take too well on that, and I'm not his voice piece, but he said, hey, he would love to get in the ring with Oscar De La Hoya, and I wonder how that would fare.
With all due respect to Junior, is he even fighting anymore? Like, it's like, it's one of those things where you look at it, you're like, that's not the same thing. It's
one of those doesn't make sense.
I'm going to avenge my father thing, but it just does not. it doesn't translate. I don't think there'd be any traction on wanting to see Camacho Jr. against Oscar De La Hoya.
Well, I'm with you. I do want to see him and Chavez Sr. do something.
Yeah, do something positive. I think that would be really nice.
Hey, you know who's open to that? Because I asked him, it was one of the interview questions that I asked him, and I just threw it out there. And I said, hey, Robert, would you be interested in doing it? He goes, I would love to do something for charity with Julio Cesar Chavez. So I can see that happening. But you know what he did say? He goes, does that mean I got to get in shape again?
You know what? It's funny because I worked 5.5 years with Julio Cesar Chavez doing A Los Golpes here in L.A., and he was like, man, if I took care of myself when I was boxing the way I do now, I'd still be kicking people's ass. You know, it was like
he's in great shape.
He's in amazing shape now.
And condition.
And, you know, yeah, I mean, and he left all the bad stuff behind. And that was probably one of the coolest things with working with Julio Cesar Chavez. Imagine that. I mean, I'm a kid that was born in Sonora, Ciudad Obregón, the same place he was born before he moved to Culiacán. You know, I moved to the United States at a young age, too. Then I grew up watching him as a fan and then covered him as a journalist. And then to be able to work with him and to see who he's become as a person, I think that's probably the coolest thing because I got to cover him when he was a mess. And now to be able to have worked with him when he was, you know, right was probably one of the coolest things to see.
Well, you know what? He reinvented himself because he was not on his way to doing what he's doing today. And not only that, he's a great commentator, gets still the same respect, and he's doing what he loves. And he's doing it at a level where he knows he can still perform and not get hurt and just have some fun doing it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the coolest things was, like, when he started to, you know, he had been doing commentary for Tele Azteca, but if you watch him do the fights in Mexico, he's kind of a character and just, like, yelling and doing, like, all kinds of antics and stuff. And then when he came over to ESPN, you know, we talked about these fights. This one I talked to him, was like, hey man, this is a serious show. You know, we need you to watch fights and get prepared. And sometimes he'd be traveling from their fights on Saturday to LA on Sunday. Didn't get the chance to watch all the fights, but he would sit down with me and, you know, before the show we'd have a conversation and he'd be like, hey Bernardo, I really didn't watch this fight, but I know this guy does this or that. How was the fight? And I would tell him, all right, you know, Julio, it started off really good for this guy, then, you know, the other guy came back and dropped him in that round, and then, you know, in the 6th round he came back and he shook him up, and then he would, like, retain that, and the fact that he told me, like, hey, I really trust the way you watch, you know, I really trust the way you watch and how you talk about boxing. Imagine a legend telling you that, you know, and so it was really a cool thing to, in that sense, as an analyst, to be somewhat of a voice of reason for him was a thrill.
That's years of grinding and hard work and making good in your opportunity. Cole, I'm still tripping out on, can you imagine to turn down a UFC job? Because you go after something that you truly believe in?
Yeah,
me and you would jump all over that.
It'd be tough, yeah. I mean, because I've always enjoyed being with that anyway, that organization anyway. So it'd be tough to turn it down. Yeah.
Yeah. I just had to throw that out there, Bernardo. I mean, you're living it and you're doing it, man, and you continue to open doors, man. But I got to throw you with this one. I want your brain really thinking. Now listen, and you can jump in too, Cole. What celebrities today, actors or celebrities, do you think would have made great fighters, great boxers, and would have been able to handle themselves in the ring?
Dude, Mark Wahlberg, he's always in shape. He does, you know, does a little bit of training here and there, and he's a legit fight fan. I've met him at the fights before, you know, backstage, and that dude knows his stuff. So I think Mark Wahlberg would be good. The Rock, man, The Rock could do anything. So, you know, with that physique. And then Mario Lopez, you know, he's a staple at the wild card. You know, he really spars guys. Even got into with Canelo and stuff. So I think those are the guys that I look at that really could have done something. And why not? My boy Gabriel Iglesias, you know, he could have been the Mexican-American butterbean at one point.
There you go, man. There you go. No,
Keanu Reeves is pretty solid with his ground game training. Well, what's that cat's name from the Boondock Saints? Crap. It's not. Why do I want to say Hugh McGregor? Well, Hugh McGregor, I think, does jiu-jitsu too, but it's one of the guys from the Boondock Saints.
What's the guy that just passed too, and you just posted him? The animal guy.
The what?
The animal guy.
Oh, shit. Oh my god.
The animal guy. He had his own show, the crocodile guy.
Yeah. Oh my god. Why is his name escaping me? I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, Steve Irwin.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's yeah, he did jiu-jitsu with the staff.
I didn't know he was grappling.
I didn't know that either. So to find that out was you know, he's going to wrestle alligators. I probably wouldn't want to mess with the guy because his risk to reward level would be insane. He's like, I've wrestled alligators. I could take you. It's like, dude, that guy's going to try to kill you.
Yeah, if he could shut an alligator's mouth, he could probably do all right with any fighter.
Yeah.
You know, there's a fighter, Regis Prograis. I mean, he's posting videos of swimming with sharks, wrestling with alligators. I don't know if you follow him, Bernardo, but man, this guy just lives life on the edge.
Yo, I'm always like, yo, stop! What if that snake bites you and you lose your hand, or you know, with all the crazy stuff that he's doing, you know? But that's Regis. Regis is a lot of fun, man. He's got one of the coolest personalities out there today. So I got a lot of respect for Regis, the warrior in the ring, and just the person he is outside of it. Apart from a great family man, I mean, he's such a cool guy.
Oh, he is, and he's down to earth, man. Hey, before I let you go, man, what's some of the living legends today that you would bring back and they would be able to compete in today's fighters? It doesn't matter what weight class. I got one that I'll let you know later, but I want to ask you, if you could bring one back in this era, who would it be and what weight division?
Salvador Sanchez, man. I'd bring him back at 126, 130 pounds. Imagine what he would be like nowadays. I think his style translates universally through any era. So, you know, it's one of those that, man, that you know, he left us too young, but
yes, he did.
Wow, just his body of work in such a short time was already a Hall of Fame career.
And you know, he wasn't your typical sit in a phone booth and bang with you. He was a boxer puncher.
He had everything. And
yeah.
I mean,
and a chin.
You know, they called him Dos Pulmones because he could stand in there and he had this amazing conditioning. So, you know, Sal Sanchez was just great.
How about in the MMA world, Cole? Who would you bring back, man?
Off the top of my head, like a Kevin Randleman kind of guy.
Oh, wow.
Like I would have loved to have seen. Yeah, like I would have loved to seen where he is, because his intensity, his wrestling, his just aggressiveness. Like the dude fought wars and prize. The dude dumped Fedor on his head. So, and Fedor got right back up, which because he's not human. So, but I would have loved to see that guy in a more current MMA scene as it started to transition versus when we lost him, and there's a potential loss there too. Yeah.
Bernardo, I would bring back Tommy the Hitman Hearns at 147 and 154s.
You know what would have been fun at 154? Jared Hurd and Tommy Hearns. That would have been ridiculous,
there you go.
Man.
There you go.
That would have been, I mean, anybody. I mean, there's so much talent between 54 and 60, but you know, think about bringing back Marvelous Marvin Hagler at 160 to fight Canelo and Triple G and those guys.
You know what? He would push the envelope. He would take Canelo. He would force Canelo to have a life experience in that corner and ask himself, "Do I really want to come out and go back to war with this guy who's just eating everything that I'm throwing at him and just and not going anywhere and getting stronger as the fight goes on?"
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing.
Oh, that would be an awesome fight right there. I mean, yeah, exactly. Well, Bernardo, man, what do you got to say to all the fans and the followers and the supporters, man, and you know, all those out there that are that have hope and you're a living example that dreams are made to come true, especially when you stand gritty on the exact dream that you want, the exact profession that you want, because you've turned down a lot of opportunities along the way, as you shared with us, because you knew exactly what you want in your career.
I think that's it. Just dream big. You know, I was taught early on by my parents that you know, you reach for the moon so you can land in the stars, and I can actually say that I've done that, you know, and that, you know, I tell my daughters all the time, you know, they're both in college now, and I always tell them, you know, the only person that can stop you is yourself, and I think a lot of people let other people determine who they are, and nobody determines your worth but yourself. So I believe it's very important to have faith in God, to have faith in yourself, and to always believe in yourself, because even though you're going to fall, you should get up, and you should get up having learned something. And if you can do that every day of your life, then you're going to be a better person for it. So, you know, I just believe that never take no for an answer. Just because one person says no and doesn't appreciate what you bring to the table, eventually someone will, and I'm living proof of that. Right now with ESPN, the way things are going, my career is somewhere that I didn't know I would ever be at, and I have the hope that it's even going to be in a better place in the future, just based on hard work, dedication, and and believing in myself. So go out there and work hard. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but the first 5.5 years of my career in television, I didn't have a single day off. I was working 7 days a week and putting in 80 plus hours a week. But you know what? I got paid to learn my trade. You have to pay your dues. Nobody's going to give you anything. Nobody's going to pat you on the back when you do things well, and they are going to kick you in the butt when you do things poorly. So learn every day, become a better person, and any dream is achievable.
Right on there. What you got for him, Cole?
He's pretty spot on with that already. He's made it pretty.
That?
He's basically cut out a nice, clean little blueprint to follow, and it's really it sounds like almost sometimes easier said than done kind of thing, and it can be, but if you apply yourself to something, like I always tell my kid, I go, dude, if you applied yourself to like school and work, like getting a job and stuff like that, as much as you apply to like some of his video games that take like a lot of commitment, I go, bro, you'd be rolling.
Well, speaking of video game, you did a voice for one of Don King's games, correct?
Yeah, I did. I got a chance. That was a cool story too, because I got a chance to go when Fernando Vargas was in his heyday. Fernando Vargas was with EA Sports. It was like Don King Presents 2001, I think, is when it happened. So he went out and I did a story with him where he was getting his 3D body scan, and so then they were like, hey, you wanna do this? We'll do a body scan for you. I was like, all right, cool. So then they did a body scan of me and made me a character in the game. And they were like, all right, now can you voice the Spanish version? And that was cool too. I mean, so it you know, just those opportunities that just happen, and you just got to be right place, right time, and have the right disposition, and it worked out.
You need to start doing some gigs like the Disney Channel or something, man. These Spanish cartoons.
I know, right? Hey,
No, really. I can see that. You know, I'll be shopping that around.
Right now, Disney Plus, the market's there.
Well, right now, wherever Bernardo goes, man, I mean, you know, he's just turning stuff down along the way until he gets what he wants. I like that. Iron sharpens iron, man, and you're on the show. And I appreciate every time that I talk to you, you say, hey, I'm watching you. And so I do appreciate that, Bernardo. I do.
No, you know, I appreciate everybody's hustle. You know, there's a lot of people out there looking to make their dreams come true, and I never knock the hustle from anybody who goes out there and puts in the work, because that's what it takes. You know, that's what it took me. Some of us get to do it on a different stage every day, and other people like yourself are doing it on your own, and I respect that. And so keep doing it. You know, keep doing it. Keep believing in your dream, and keep working every day to make it happen, and it will, because you know, good things happen to good people. It just may take a while, but you'll get there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Hey, you know what? We got some things to discuss on some recap, but, man, I've had these long enough. And you know, when I wrote down today, when he said, hey, Rich, how long? When I wrote down 45 minutes, I was already laughing in my head, because I'm thinking, okay, we're going to get this guy, and we're going to go beyond that, because I want to get him in his comfort zone. He's a storyteller, and you get in depth on your content, man. I love having you on the show. You're not even done yet, and I'm already thinking, okay, when can we have him back? And I know your schedule is so busy, but we definitely got to make time in maybe a couple of months from now. But whenever you want to come on, or there's something you need a platform for, man, hey, give us a call, man. We're that platform for you. And I'm very excited to send you the link, because you shared something with me. You go, Richard, I really don't watch too many podcasts, man, but I'm going to make sure you catch this one today.
Sounds good. I have to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If I can't watch myself, then I'm unwatchable. So
exactly, man.
Self-proclaimed.
Yeah, exactly. But no, hey, we'll be watching you, man, and you definitely want to be interviewed first. If he's interviewing you first, man, 90% of the times it is because you did great on ESPN, and with the exception, I think you interviewed Andy Vincent's first on that close decision loss.
Yeah, I do believe so. Yeah, it's, you know, even Deontay Wilder was like, he after his loss against Tyson Fury was like, yo, man, and I told the producer, I'm like, we better get him first, because he's not going to be waiting around. Yeah. The champ will wait, the winner will wait, but imagine after all he's been through, if we won him, we got to get him first. So, you know, it's one of those on-the-fly decisions that get made in the middle of a fight.
No, exactly, and you read that script perfectly, man. Hey, so it's a pleasure having you on, man, and I'm going to text you later on. I'm going to get your address, because we got to send you an official Fighter's Voice T-shirt, man, and we got to make sure you're looking good when you're out there on your leisure time. You know what I mean?
I'll wear it proudly. Appreciate it, Richard and Cole. You guys have a good one.
Hey, have a good one, Bernardo. We'll talk to you
Bernardo.
soon. All right. My man, we're talking about another future Hall of Famer that is so down to earth. confident in what he does, and just talking to him, you can see everything line up on his work ethic and his professionalism, man.
Yeah, he's it's one of those talk to talk, walk to walk kind of scenarios where he'll tell you this is what I think is the best path and how I think you can achieve the most for yourself. But then he actually goes, because I've done it. It's not one of those, this is what I think is best for you. It's like, well, what
turned down
did you
UFC, man.
Yeah, which I mean, I can understand where he was going for at that time.
Yeah.
I don't think he was saying, I think your market or your product's bad. I think he was just saying, I don't think that particular market's going to go anywhere. I think if I attach myself to it, I'm going to get maybe typecasted to it. And if it fails, people might look at my career.
Which he shared with us earlier about a certain role that was offered to him.
Exactly. So he understood where his best future was for himself and where he had the most potential.
Talking about future, man, what's the future of Bader?
I mean, every champion loses. I don't think. I think maybe they.
You think they'll run that back?
I don't think they'll run it back immediately. I think Bader needs to go get his head examined first. He got his noodle knocked around.
Well, okay, let me ask you about that, okay? How was the referee? Do you think that should have been stopped sooner?
No, I think the referee did his job.
Okay.
The referee 100%. Here's the thing. At no point was Bader hurt enough that he didn't know where he was.
I posted that on our page, and that was some of the content and some of the reviews that came. Hey, they should have stopped that sooner. When's he going to stop this?
No, I've seen some fights like the Jose Aldo fight.
But again, those are coming from guys that are sitting on the couch wearing the Affliction T-shirt.
Oh no, I've seen some dudes that are even in the sport. They go, oh, that went a little long. But at the same time, you're not considering what the ref's job is. The ref's job at that level is this is a championship fight. I need to give the champion every opportunity. Just I would give the challenger every opportunity to fight his way out. And he's telling to him, he's communicating. He's like, hey, you got to work. And he's right there telling them, you got to work or I'm going to stop it. If you don't move, I'm going to stop. That's why Bader kept leaving himself open to get
he was
hit
talking
because
to him.
he was fighting to get to his feet.
He was almost coaching him.
Not so much coaching him, but telling him, like, you have to get up. You got to move.
Don't make me do my job.
These are warnings to, like, you know, the ref. Like, they'll say things like, hey, you defend that armbar, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to stop it if you don't do something. Like, he doesn't want to see your arm snap. But in a championship level.
Do you think more referees should be more vocal like that?
I mean, I think all referees are pretty vocal as it is when it comes to, like, give me a thumbs up, or because if you can't see their face and they're in a choke, give me a thumbs up, give me something, Lawler, give me a thumbs up, let me know you're there, because if not, I'm going to stop it because I think you're out.
Now, if they were to ask Diaz and they say, hey, give me a thumbs up or something, what do you think he's going to give him?
100%. He would 100% flip him off.
He'll let go of his choke and do it with both.
But that would be Nate or Nick telling you, I'm fine. Leave me alone. I got this. Back off. So, I mean, I've pushed Herm Dean aside before. I've gotten kicked in the cup, and I just push him aside. It's like, no, I'm fine. Get out. Don't stop the fight. I'm good. So that's why I always cringe when I see guys, they take a cup kick. They're like, oh, I need my 5 minutes. Really, bro? Like, you never been kicked in the cup in sparring?
I wear one, you wear one.
Yeah, I got to get a steel cup.
Yeah.
What's the problem? It's that dudes don't like the way they have to be worn. It's the problem.
I like the story when he says, check out my foot.
Yeah.
And then to say,
shows them they feel,
I'm glad he didn't get up because, you know, I don't know what I've done.
Right? And hopping around at that point.
Yeah.
But I know it's fun. Opportunities. So with that fight, Barnett was given, or Bader was given as many opportunities as possible to improve his position and show that he was still in it. He was still game. He was still there. He was getting hit a lot less than it looked like. A lot of those punches were missing. They were swinging over his head down the side. But he did eat a lot in the attempt to get back to his feet. Like, he was pushing his feet down, trying to get. And that's where the ref was like, okay, he's risking eating him to get back up. So he's trying to get back to his feet. But then when he took that next right and just went down, he was still in it. He was trying to, but the ref was like, that's it. Because at that point, Bader showed him that, okay, I got to my feet, and it just wasn't enough. You know what I mean? The guy put me back down. It just wasn't enough. So I don't think the ref stopped the fight too late at all. I don't think he stopped it too soon. I think the ref did exactly what he was supposed to do, which was give the champion the opportunity to, come on, this is literally your job right now. You're champ. Show everybody why you're champ. You got to go. You got to move. Okay. I don't think he was coaching him. I don't think he's helping him, because the reality is they're going to do that with every fighter. I've seen them do it with every fighter that gets in a bad spot. Like, maybe you just don't hear them, or you're biased and you want to not think of it that way, or you want to blame the ref for a fight. It's like, look, dude, Bader got kicked in the goddamn neck. That's not the ref's fault.
No, it's not.
The ref could have stopped it right then and there. I mean, like, that's it, get off, it's over. And people would have been like, oh, I don't know, dude, Bader's tough. Like, he was moving. Bader didn't just go limp. Like,
he had a nice little streak going, man.
He did.
He reinvented himself.
He had made the changes.
At Bellator.
But I want to point out.
Okay.
Remember when Jones was leaving the belt, and some other guys were talking about leaving the belt, and they were like, "Oh, Jones is going to be a free agent. Where's he going to go? He can go to Bellator and do what? Get bored?"
Yeah.
Jones would destroy Bader.
Yeah.
This dude Nemkov with 10 fights, he's not a high caliber guy yet.
That one lasts too long.
And Bader walked right into it. You could see it coming. You could see the setup. He's leaning back and moving. He's leaning back and moving. Dude. And that was it. So Jones would have destroyed Bader.
We didn't get a chance to talk about this. We did see the last of DC, Daniel Cormier, yeah?
Yeah. Like I said, that's it. He's done. With or without the belt coming home with him, this was my last ride into the sunset. Butch Cassidy Sundance Kid style. I'm coming home with my shoulder on it.
He has a great profession in front of him now. I mean, now he gets to embrace of what he loves doing, giving back to the kids, head wrestling coach, and he's a great commentator.
He's one of those guys. He's like a Randy Couture of the sport. He's always going to be training. He's always going to be sparring. He's always going to be helping the other AKA guys. Like, if you think he's going to stop training and still go to that gym to try to, like, poke fun and stuff, that's not how it works there. You want to step on that mat there, you better be ready to step on that mat there. They're not going to expect you to go balls to the wall anymore because you're out. But if you want to come and play, you got to stay in shape and be able to come and play, because at that point you want to make sure that you're at least being of a utilizable tool to them. You don't want to just take a sparring session round away from a Khabib or a Kane or whatever, or a Rockhold, and steal a session of sparring with them when they could have spent that time and energy sparring with somebody that would have gave them something in return. DC will stay in fight-ish shape just so he can still, because he might say that's it for my competitive drive professionally, but it's competitive drive to make others better, to push those, to be a role model. To
all
push,
these years, it's hard for him not to be there and be the man that he is inside of that gym.
It's not hard. It'll be impossible.
Yeah. Some people
a guy like DC will never be able to walk away from the sport itself and the gym. He might be able to walk away from
and never
active
turn down
combat.
from a challenge inside that gym.
Yeah, exactly. So which is why he needs to always stay safe, because you can't go in there and have the kind of rapport he has. You know, a guy like Bob could go in there and do it, and then at one point Bob's like, no.
And see, when you see him, he's not your typical, he's a massive of a man as a heavyweight. He was just well-rounded, his technique. And he had the ball sack, the guts to get in there.
He did, and people are going to look at what have you done for me lately effect. You know, when people want to look at your career and stuff, it's like the reality of it is, if you really go back and look at his career, he's done a shit ton.
Yeah,
he's done an immeasurable amount.
Hey,
for
you got to
himself
remember,
in the sport.
champ.
Exactly.
Yep.
You can't ignore, like, you may not like a fighter, but the reality is you can't blindly ignore what they've accomplished in the sport, especially when it's just a sport of killers. Granted, is it the murderer's row of what it used to be? No.
Yeah.
But he ran part of that gauntlet at one point. He was in there with those guys. You know, he had to fight Jones twice. I don't care that he lost to Jones, because the reality is he was good enough to get to fight Jones twice. That's what people overshadow. It's like, oh, you lost.
And Gustafsson along the way to earn that shot.
And Gustafsson along the way. That dude's a killer too.
Yeah,
so
he shook him up there too.
You know, so we're gonna see. So when they say, oh, you know, Jones can go to Bellator, and I'm like, yeah, you can go to Bellator and get bored. There's
nothing there for him, man. And
not right now.
That's no disrespect to any of the guys.
And it's not. I mean, if I say something like, I just don't think a guy like Jones would have any challenge in your organization yet, and you take it in an offensive manner, I can understand why you would take it in an offensive manner. Sucks. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm not going to apologize for my view of the sport, and that doesn't mean my view is right at all. I could be way off, and Jones go in there and just get cracked. It's not going to happen, though. You know,
earlier I threw some scenarios at Bernardo, and he kept it real. He shut him down real quick. He did, and that's just that's the reality of it, in the position that he's in, not just the knowledge that he has. I mean, he's right there in the mix, in that bubble, so to speak, with these guys, and knows who's serious, who's not. So you want to bring this guy. There's a lot you don't know about him.
I'm gonna start picking up his brain for bet night. Be like, hey, who's been fucking around this week? Who's been screwing off, not really training, taking it kind of easy?
Yeah.
Who seems nervous? Who seems like they're focused?
I like the way he established that right off the gate. He said, look, I'll party with you. We're cool right here. But if you do some dumb shit out here,
you get into a fight, you get into an altercation, that the cops show up or something, you walk out on your tab. Like, if something happens, I'm going to be like, hey, check it out really quick. De La Hoya is getting arrested for a bar fight altercation. Like, you can't not do that, because if it comes out that your bosses found out you were there, you go, look, Rich, you were there when Ramirez got arrested at Aldo's? You were there, and you didn't instantly get on the page, the Instagram, the Twitter, the something, and just be like, you're not going to believe what just happened. Breaking news, so-and-so just got arrested at a bar fight at Aldo's or whatever. You'd risk losing credibility. Yeah. Nobody would want to take you seriously at that point, because they'd be like, you're going to pass up news. So
speaking of credibility, man, I won't get into too much detail, but Rick Morigan did paperwork with Robert Garcia's Boxing Academy, who is going to be managing, I don't know exactly what part of it, maybe all of it. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I'm wanting to see how that works out. Because anything that he really grinds to, it's all successful.
It's like when you see, like if you were to see Jones walk away from the UFC, which he's not, he's going to be a heavyweight now. But if he were to walk away from the UFC, everyone would wonder, well, where is he going to go next? It wouldn't take long to find out where they go next. So it's the same thing here. You get a guy like Rick's caliber within this industry. When he decides it's time to swim around a little bit, it's not long before he lands in a feeding area where he's like, okay, this is the next spot I want to be at.
A feeding area.
It's where
under the Blue Lagoon, huh?
Kind of, but you got to figure.
I like
he never a shark always moves. He's always looking for where the next fish of school is going to be. And like I said, if you misunderstand the reference, it's just because somebody will get offended on it. And if you get offended by a misunderstanding of reference, it's because you think that of yourself. So when I mention things like the next school of fish, it's not like saying, oh, well, we're just minnows. No, it's not. If you think that way, it's your fault.
The thing about how Rick's even smarter than a shark, because a shark's going to tell you what he's going to strike, because he's fishing around, and you see him, so you're going, oh, this guy's going to attack.
You know when he's coming, kind of thing. You see the fin.
Rick just hides underneath the reef. It's all green, and then he just attacks. He's like one of those ones that just come out of the water and just bite something that he shouldn't bite. Two different wildlife. You got a bird flying, and then you got this mammoth of a shark just come out and just eat it up and devour it.
It just boils down to opportunities again.
Yeah.
It was the right decision to make, right partnership to build. It wouldn't have happened if both parties.
I don't even want to speculate, but I can see it just being very, very nice.
Oh, yeah.
And Robert Garcia, his name in boxing, everybody knows it. But people who don't even know boxing are going to be wearing some gloves that say Robert Garcia's Boxing Academy or the video game. And I mean, I don't even got to give the man any ammo. He's already running with it. And I think it's a great connection,
Like I said, neither party would have agreed to sit at the table unless they both already beforehand knew there was a mutual benefit of opportunity there. We're not going to talk to you. He's not going to talk to them, because why are we even talking if we can't both walk away with a win on this?
Yeah, exactly. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to Saturday. Finally. But until both men walk into the ring, and not even at the weigh-in, because Jose's had his fights postponed at the weigh-in when a guy just couldn't make it, couldn't cut the weight. So, and Bernardo hit it right on the nail, man. I mean, to stay motivated, go to 3 different camps. The man knows exactly. Now, I mean, it's just phenomenal on his input and what he knows. To know it at that level and just to interact with these guys, yeah. I
mean, I see what boxing is doing with, like, when they got this bubble going on and stuff. The one thing I wish they would do that, like, it's the perfect opportunity, Golden Boy, Top Rank, whoever, whatever, do it or don't, I don't care. The UFC, when they bring you in for the week of fight week, you weigh in at the beginning of the week, and then they will have periodic weigh-ins through the week, because they want to see, hey, are you close to weight? We don't want to have any surprises on weight night.
That's very smart.
So they do that. I've never really heard of boxing doing that, and I've seen major title fights.
They'll come around and they go, no, we're fine, we got to get out of here. It's kind of like, let me look at the cut.
UFC will say, hey, get on the scale. Like, if depending on the level of your fight,
we're not going to allow you to lose 12 pounds in 4 hours.
That too, and that's why they do it. They'll say, hey, dude, you weighed 155 yesterday, and today you weigh 143. Your fight's at 135. What's going on? Like, that doesn't make sense. You can't, because they got to abide by the Athletic Commission too. Some of those guidelines, you're not allowed to lose so much weight. So they say, okay, here's the number starting, which is why it's smart to come in close to your weight, close to your fight weight.
We don't want to be responsible or be related to you falling out.
Jacking yourself upside. And
exactly.
I've had some I saw some dudes before that fell and busted their face open on, like, the corner of a bathroom table like this.
Brother, I've interviewed a guy a day before weigh-in, maybe 2 days before, and he can barely speak.
Yeah, that's when those guys are doing it wrong. Those if you're in that much suffering, you need to switch weight classes. You need to go up a weight class and cut less and stop being stubborn. Yeah. Because back in the day, it was be big, cut light.
I wasn't even thinking of, okay, what's the next question? I was thinking, okay, how do we end this interview?
Yeah, go, so we need a medic or something? Like, we need an EMS guy. EMS guys, can you come here real quick? Yeah. Dude's about to die.
Yeah.
So, and there's times where it's like, until you get used to that weight, maybe it's his first cut at that weight. I was pretty bad my first cut to like 35s.
Bro, you know what? I've noticed Albert Gonzalez. I saw him, and he looked like he was eating some pepperoni pizzas. I looked at him the other day. The man is on fire. He is highly motivated. He has a washboard like Jamal Herring, man. I mean, he is just shredded. He's ready to go. And he's a phone call away. I said, hey, we need some fight news. I want to bring you on here. I don't want to talk about, hey, how's your day? Or what are you doing now? I want some fight news.
I want to talk about something important.
Yes.
That makes sense. I mean, it's a utilization of time.
And he, you know what? He's a fun guest. But you know what I do? And KP, you've met both men. And those of you, KP, that's our producer. He's the man behind the curtain. I thought of a dream match. And we even got someone in the audience listening too. I would love to see in a dream match, like a video game, Big Al Gonzalez taking on Kilo the Kid from Stockton.
Oh, what kind of video game, though?
A kick-ass video game.
Because you've got to...
These guys, we're talking about the same personalities, the same hunger, the same mentality, the same... I mean, these guys are clones as far as what they want to achieve in their career. I'll take on anybody. I never turn down a fight. I'm always in shape. I'm ready to go. But two different sports.
Exactly. So
they're two different sports.
How would you do the video game?
Oh, it's just, you know...
You know what I mean? Like,
that'd
be like if they were to fight, where in reality, like, what would they fight in? MMA, boxing?
See, Al's the type of dude that said... Hell, let's box. I don't care, whatever, bro. Or let's just And then Kilo be like, well, we could wear gloves or not. That type stuff. I mean, just some two bad, respectful dudes, man.
I think they would both want their respective.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's where we would hit a stalemate. Like, I mean,
I would just love these guys. I would love these guys just to meet each other. I mean, they're to respect two bad dudes, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, actually, because he sent a video last night to me, Albert, which I sent to you too, and I sent it to Kilo.
Him working the outside training session?
Yeah, when he was out there, and just his mentality, the same thing. They remind me of each other, two different sports.
Imagine some guys are getting really frustrated by now, not being able to go out and perform.
Here's the thing. Here's the dangerous thing, and we're going to let you guys go. They need to hit something. Other than the sparring partner in that bag, they're ready to hit something. They're even ready to be hit.
The release, it's an emotional and physical thing that you put your body through in training camp. So you need this release. It's like it's like when you're training canine dogs, like for law enforcement.
Yeah.
Their whole predication is almost on like a reward system.
Yeah.
Once they do their job, it's a kabal, you get really loud.
Yeah, exactly.
Fighters are kind of the same way. If you have a training camp, and there's no payoff.
Yeah.
Like that's why I don't go to strip clubs. Fuck's the point?
Yeah.
Some beautiful girl's going to tease me the whole time.
Well, for the most part, you're 86 anyway.
Hey, come on.
They say, get that guy out of here. He's back.
Grab, he's back. No,
he's back.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, so fighters, the same thing.
Let me tell you.
The training camp.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I got to show you this comment I got. They go, I love his stash. We watched the whole show. We love his stash.
It's mustache.
It's a boxing mom too.
No,
out of Stockton. We love his staff.
It probably reminds me of like those old school dudes when they would fight like this.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Yeah, Sullivan.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, it's that porn stash.
It's a porn.
I go, I'm always teasing. She goes, no, we love his stash. We watch it.
It's the stash is taking on many numerous genres.
Izzy's mom, Izzy Bones' mom. Hey, give you a shout out. See, I passed the message. You love Cole's stash.
That's the stash is the man.
It's the stash.
But it's shit, I totally lost my train of thought. Thinking about the stash and what we're going to do.
See, we're talking about this stash, and you're going, oh, you mean the other stash?
No, okay. So the release, the reward system. So like dogs, Ramirez and Posel, they're experiencing it right now. They're getting right again for that fight camp. The fight is the release. It's the fight is the reward system.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like they've been there twice and haven't gotten there yet. That can be detrimental to fighters because you're not getting your reward system. You're breaking down your own mental training.
Jose's just a different animal.
Agreed.
It has nothing to do with any gyms or anybody he left, and I'm trying to say it with the utmost respect because I'm welcome in both houses, and I appreciate and I got love, and they give love back. Jose's just a different animal, especially when it comes to fighting for that strap. He's been itching. He just... Jose's just a different animal right now.
Agreed. But that's that reward system. Now, here's the thing, though. It's not that it breaks guys down. It's that I guarantee, I don't care who Jose Ramirez is as far as this is concerned. You can't lie and say that the mental capacity of having gone through training camp twice and then having it shut down on you is not in the back of both of those dudes' heads. I guarantee you there's so much second guessing going on.
But check this out. With Jose, he's gotten as far as, okay, it's weigh-in day. Mm-hmm. And you mean to tell me this? So,
bro, I've gotten a phone call the morning of.
No, we're on the way to the weigh-in, bro. We're waiting on the opponent.
No, yeah. I've done weigh-ins.
Bob Arum got on
the morning
there,
of the fight. Fight's
and when
canceled.
he got on there, and he told the crowd, "What the hell are you guys booing about?" And just laid into the crowd.
And I don't know if I would do that. Those are the ones that are buying your tickets.
Well, yeah. And for what it's worth, Jose said, "Hey, I earned this. I'm getting on the scale." For the record, I'm taking my weight, and he got on there like a champion.
I've had, dude, my 21st birthday was spent at weigh-ins for a fight. Couldn't drink, nothing. Only for the fight to get canceled the next morning at 8 o'clock.
Man.
Get called, Reed's like, "Hey, bro, I got bad news. Dude's blood work came back bad."
Is that party still on?
No, dude. Hey, I went downstairs and started having omelets and shots of vodka at the bar that morning. And I was pissed because I missed my 21st birthday.
Yeah.
I was weighing in for a fight. I didn't get to party that week. I didn't get to do anything for my 21st. I got fucked up that night. Like that was the night that I got carried out.
Bring me somebody. I'm hitting somebody.
That was the night I got carried out of the bar by Coach because a brawl broke out. Dave Camarillo was there. A brawl broke out.
You shared that story. Who do we have on? Was it Moreno we had on there? No, who do we have on here?
Might have been Moreno, yeah. Moreno might have brought that one up because he knows that story. Because it was just, Dave Camarillo was there. It was just a full bar broke out. I was smashed. Me and Dave sat in the Tap Out crew and Chuck Liddell's seats by accident because we were just like, there were front row seats. And we were smashed already. We just went and sat down. I was like, this is stupid. Let's just sit wherever. It doesn't matter. We're good fighters. We're going to watch. And then Mask and Charles and Chuck and them came up and said, they're real cool, but they're like, "Hey, I think you guys are in our seats." And we're like, "Shit, yeah, we are. Sorry, we're getting out of your guys' way." But they knew who we were. That's why they were just fucking with us. Like, I think you guys are in my seats. Like, oh, they're like, no, it's cool with it. They sat down. They were like, no, we'll get up and go sit somewhere else. We went up and got beers and stuff. So stuff happens, but I can understand. So the reward system, the payoff, it's gonna be there up until they actually walk to the ring. Yeah. They're going to both be second guessing whether this fight's really going to go off. And that's going to cause a mental ripple effect, whether they accept it or not. I don't care who they are and how they're different or whatever.
They're
you
human.
Can't fight psychology, science of your own mind.
They're human.
That's second guessing.
Talking about psychology and science and stuff. Their speed and agility coach, their Charles Tremblay, he's now a doctor. Mm-hmm. So he's now messing around, flirting around with these mindsets to give you more confidence stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say too much. He's going to introduce it, but
it's mental conditioning.
I mean, yes, exactly. I mean,
Mike Mattisau does it. A lot of poker players do it.
What I'm saying is Robert Garcia's boxing academy is going to have the best of everything.
I think they may be
introducing it to other gyms, or maybe other gyms are tapping in and doing it themselves.
You're going to see you're literally witnessing an evolution in the training aspect because now they're looking at going, how do we mentally prepare this guy? We can physically prepare him all fucking day.
Yeah.
But how do we mentally get him to not be gunshot? How do we mentally get him to push through? What can we do? What adversity can we experience and expose him to in training? You know, have him get the crap beat out of him in the gym one day and then sit down and talk about it with someone. Yeah. Let's walk you through this. Now, this is how you avoid feeling gun shy when you go next. Yeah. You know, talk your guy through a loss. Get their mental game back on it. Some guys, if they don't have it, that's it. They're done. Mm-hmm.
Hey, KP, I'm going to send you a picture real quick. I'm going to see if you can just do this for me real quick. Man, I didn't even crop it or anything, but I want to share something to see. Can I use that one? I'll use this one. No, which one am I going to use?
Something fun?
Yeah, I'll send this one. Wait, let me see. I'll send you the big one.
Well, while you're sending that one, you know who made the news again in MMA?
Who did?
Jason Mayhem Miller. He's screwed up.
What's he doing now, man?
What isn't Mayhem doing? Dude's getting racked up multiple felonies on this one. Like multiple felonies like Grand Theft Auto, evading police, something about a gun, narcotics. Like he had a bad time again. He's in the news always for all the wrong reasons. His career stopped and then he just went.
And he was doing great when he had that MTV gig. Remember getting bullied and stuff?
The bully beatdown or whatever? Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird.
That show was weird.
It asked him to be weird.
It was weird. And it had its timing. It was when MMA was big. You know, it was new. It was becoming a mainstream thing, kind of as far as, you know, where we were before. So it was different.
It was different. I liked it.
It was cool. It was different. And then I think something happened. And then, they found out it was staged and shit, something like that. It was staged.
Well, I found out a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
It is. It just really is. Hey, do we got that up there, KP? I mean, we can do the first one. The second one, we can just kind of show along the way. And I normally don't do this, but I'm going to do it because it just meant to be. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, right there, that's in Madera, California. That's Ochoa's Transmissions in Madera, California. Now, if you're looking for an honest mechanic, if you're looking for a mechanic who's going to go beyond your average mechanic that doesn't work 9 to 5, he'll go beyond. I mean, this guy's one of the most honest mechanics out there, Alex Ochoa. He can be reached at 559-661-7024. And if you tell him the Fighter's Voice sent you, he's going to give you his 10% discount. Ooh. This guy, he worked with my AC today, man. And what I should have done, because on the way over here, I should have stopped by Marshall's and bought myself a blanket because I was freezing in my freaking truck. That AC was just kicking. It was blasting. It had more power. It felt like a Jose Ramirez's left hook to the body. And that's Madera, California. Alex Ochoa's Transmission. They can be reached at 661-7024, area code 559. If you got a problem with your car, your engine, your transmission, just go and see Alex. Ask for Alex. Tell him the Fighter's Voice sent you, and he'll give you your 10% discount, man.
Can't beat it.
And we're talking about an honest mechanic. If you go in there and say, hey, if you go in there and say, I need an oil change, he'll say, you really don't. You can have one, I'll do it for you, but after looking at it, you really don't.
Yeah, I checked out your oil.
We're good to go.
You got about 1,000, 2,000 miles left until you're going to need it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just had to throw that out because that's the experience I had with that man. I've known him most of my life. I coached his son, Andrew, from 5 years old. I want to say 4 years old, 5 years old. And Andrew's now on his, he's going to school in L.A. to be a doctor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's UCLA or, well, he had one brother at UCLA. Alex Jr., and then he had Chris, I want to say, at Stanford. So they did very well for themselves.
Those aren't cheap colleges.
Yes. And see, Dad's worked all those overtime hours as a mechanic. I mean, doing all that, because they don't have the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You know, they work beyond. And I'm saying this because it's very well deserved. And yeah, man, I was freezing my, off over here because that AC was blasting. I just had to give that shout out.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it does. So what do we got, man? We got anything?
We got a UFC fight night coming up this weekend back in Vegas. Like I said, they're going to be bouncing back and forth between.
What was your take on Frankie Edgar?
I thought that was a good fight. I don't know.
How about a strategy?
I mean, it's not anything different than what Frankie's always utilized. Yeah, he just keeps moving, tries to grind you down, outbox you, outstrike you. Not really to knock you out, but to do damage to you, wear you down, break you down, and then later on he just drags you into the water. Either way it could have gone. Nobody, I think, would really argue if it went the other way.
Yeah.
Holitz was just not okay with it. Like, I think I won, but I accept it. And he was like, I'd love to, fight him again one day, but I'm not worried about an immediate rematch. And that was like Saturday at the post press. But then like Monday creeped around, and I think he watched the fight a couple times without audio and not necessarily listened to fans or anything, but just watched it himself.
I've never done that. What is the difference?
So when you watch a fight with audio, regardless of whether or not you're unbiased, just hearing things will gear your brain towards a specific narrative.
In school, you get hit, you go, ooh.
Yeah, and it wasn't even really that hard, but it just sounded hard. But it's just like, what that happens all the time in fights. Like when you hear a guy get kicked in the leg and it sounds bad, the more it sounds loud, the less damage it did. A good tie kick to the leg is just a it's just a thud. It's just a bone cracking into the slap sound you hear. It's usually the top of the foot's hitting the thigh really hard. It's like clapping your hands. It's nothing. So I think his game plan was all the same. I don't know about the whole contender thing. Like this was his first fight at 135.
I'm glad you brought up that. Okay, Stephanie Frosto, we're gonna make it up to you. Technology does suck sometime, but hey, we gotta make it up to that girl, man.
Oh, I already talked to her and said, just give me a time where you're.
Oh, but I need you to talk to. Man, now I know where they get their fire from. Mama don't play. She goes, what happened? And she even asked me in Spanish. So it's on like Donkey Kong, man.
What happened?
No,
Stephanie happened.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's what I was all right.
Exactly.
She sat somewhere that she didn't get the signal. That's on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. I hate to say it, but
I know.
You gotta fighters. You gotta go somewhere when you're gonna do interviews that you can have a good signal, because even if you gotta stand outside in a parking lot, do it.
Yeah.
So I asked her, I would hit up and say, when are you free and when can you be somewhere that you know you'll have a good signal? Then we can just, it doesn't matter when and where. At that point, we'll just all figure out. Maybe we set up like a Zoom, something we can record or something, and we'll just record the video and just run it. I've been telling people that we're just going to drop it on the YouTube channel anyway. So if you even want to see it, you're going to have to go and subscribe to the channel anyway. So if you're not, you're gonna miss that content. If you want to see that interview and talk to her about her upcoming spot in the Contender Series with Dana White's show, you're going to have to watch the YouTube channel. You're going to have to subscribe and notification bell, because you won't know when we put it on. You won't know until after we've put it on. And then I'll put it on for a while, and then maybe a couple hours later I'll tell everybody, hey, it's on there. You know, now you can go. But if you're a subscriber, you'll know when it drops. You'll know before everybody else.
Exactly.
So,
hey, big shout out to Bud Elliott, who's a legend here in Fresno, California. Thank you, my man, for putting together that proposal. Very well done and professionally done. So we've been asked to send some out, and he put one together. It's beautiful. So they'll be hitting the desk pretty soon, man.
Cool.
So I'm done here, man.
That's about it. I mean, like I said, you got UFC Fight Night coming up. It's going to be Smith and Rick, Lawler and Magny, Lamas and Alego. I'll give you my picks later this week. It's not a big card. It's not really a strong card. I'm curious to see where Lawler's at since his last fight with Askren. I don't think he lost that fight. I think that was just a dumb scenario that ended up happening that got created, and he ended up on the short end of that. So the Askren fight, I'd like to see what he bounces back from that. And then we'll just kind of go from there. Anthony Smith, we haven't seen these guys fighting in a while. There's been some ups and downs stuff. So we'll find out. But like I said, I don't know about Edgar necessarily being a contender yet. I'm down to support that, but this was his debut at 135, and it was a questionable decision win. Not questionable in the sense of did he win, questionable in the sense of it could have gone either way, and nobody would really be arguing about it.
It was close.
It wasn't a decisive win. So to say that he's automatically a contender at 135, I think is just Dana White hyping up Edgar, saying, we had a really good performance out of him tonight. It's his first fight at 35. He looks good. I'd like to see Edgar's second fight against another tough opponent and see how that one goes.
Someone threw the name out there, Cruz.
Dominic?
Yeah.
Against Edgar?
Yeah.
Why do I feel like they fought already? I'd have to look that up, but I feel like they've actually fought already. No, it couldn't have been. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else that Dominic fought at 135. But I think Dominic would have reach on that one. I think his anti-wrestling is not good enough to take down Edgar by any means, but it's good enough, I think, to stop Edgar from getting a takedown. I think if he stays in the center of the ring and gets on his bike like Dominic, that's just Dominic created that style. I think, and he just utilizes that and stays reach because he's got such a height advantage.
Yeah.
But Edgar is just known for he just closes that distance so good with like just a step. He just closes that distance and boom.
Because he would get the takedown and then he would kind of just pop up.
He would try to get the takedown. Like I said, I think Dom's wrestling ability for MMA, because you got to remember, you can be a badass wrestler and have a super good sprawl.
Dude, there's 8 questions here for Bernardo. I mean, it's just
he's a popular dude. Popular dude. People want to hear what's on his mind when you get put in that position and stuff. So I mean, just the fact that you have to get permission from ESPN, to do that says that people are going to want to pick his brain.
And what did he say? There's a right thing to do things.
Exactly. There's a right way to do things, because they could have said no, we'd rather you didn't. But no, they're fine with it.
There's a difference between, okay, let me rig it up my way, and there's a certain way that you do it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Hey, I want to thank our guest, Bernardo Osuna, man. I mean, just a living legend, a future Hall of Famer, and just the class that he has and the time that he took out. He's actually in Las Vegas right now. He's in that bubble.
Yeah, he's in the bubble getting ready for that Jose fight.
Hey. Yeah,
MGM, right?
Yeah, MGM Grand this Saturday, man. And hats off to the whole ESPN staff for allowing him. And I'm sure you're very, very happy and satisfied with his work. And it's only getting better and it's only growing, man. That name's going to be a household name, man. And,
MGM days are numbered, though, as far as like being the UFC's go-to in Mandalay. Like,
oh, really?
That's it. Their days are numbered. Just the fact that the UFC bought 10 acres out in Vegas, that's it.
Speaking of that, I heard there's a certain radio station around here, and their days are numbered too because it's for sale. So that's just what I heard. We'll talk more about it later.
Man, that sucks.
Yeah. Hey, so as always, it's a wrap here in Fresno, California. I'm your host, Richard Ortiz, ESCOVEDO. Thumbs up for Richie.
Okay, fight fans, it's not goodbye, but until next week.
Remember.
It's always voiceography at its finest. So on behalf of Richard Ortiz, Cole ESCOVEDO, the special guests, and all the crew right here at the Kick-Ass Podcast, saying hasta luego, babies. And always, thanks for listening.